All right, we're back again with some more triangles. Again, I have an acute triangle, I have a right triangle, and I have an obtuse triangle. And we're going to do something completely different today. Instead of starting by folding or anything like that, I'm going to try to see if I can balance these triangles on my pencil. I know, sounds a little bit crazy, right? Just so you know, my triangles today I did make out of cardstock so that they're a little sturdier. And I have my pencil, and I'm just going to work to see if I can get them to balance, okay? So I'm going to try to set my pencil, triangle here on my pencil. Try to keep them in view of my camera if I can. I'm going to try to see if I can, and let go, try to see if I can get it to balance, okay? Now, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I did get it to balance. I can move my pencil around, and it's sitting on top of my pencil. So I'm going to very carefully hold my triangle to my pencil, and I'm going to flip it over, and right where it was balanced, I'm going to put a dot, okay? So I put a little dot right there, and I'm going to test it again. I'm going to put that dot right back on top of my pencil. Sure enough, it helps again, okay? So there's my acute triangle. It's balancing on my pencil without a problem. So that's my balance point. All right, let me try my right triangle. Okay, if you're ever not sure what your triangle is, take your corner and put it into a piece of paper maybe. See, if I put this one right into a piece of paper, oops, my camera's not looking here, I can see that it matches up exactly, so I know that's a right angle, okay? So I'm going to work with this right angle, this right triangle, and I'm going to see if I can find a balance point on this one, okay? Oops, tipped off there. So I'm looking to see. Keep moving along until I can try to balance it. Oh, almost. And this one seems funny because it has that longer side. There we go. I'm able now to get that one to balance. And so where it balances, I'm going to put a mark. Okay. So I go ahead and I put a mark right there where I think it should balance. I'm going to put my pencil right back on that mark and try to see if I can get my triangle to balance again when I go right to that mark. Okay, so I found the balance point on my right triangle. Now I'm going to switch and I'm going to do my obtuse triangle. Okay, so this one has an angle that's larger than 90 over here. And again, if I want to check that, I can put a piece of paper out, and I see that my angle definitely comes out farther than the corner there, so it's bigger than the 90 degrees. My focus is not doing well here. Let me see if I can focus. There we go. Okay, so my angle definitely is larger. So I know I'm working with an obtuse, so I'm going to try to see if I can get it to balance. Again, it's kind of finding that sweet spot that everything will just work off of. There we go. It looks like my pencil's holding it up there, okay? So I'm going to hold down, and I'm going to find that spot, and I'm going to mark it. I'm going to put a nice dark spot right there, right where it was balanced. Now I'm going to try to balance again to make sure I found the right spot. Oops. Okay, so I've balanced again. So on all three triangles, I found the balance point, okay? One on the acute, one on the right, and one on the obtuse. Okay, now give me a minute here to focus my camera back down because I'm going to do some work down here and flip my camera so it actually, you can see it. Maybe I went the wrong way. There we go. All right, I'm finally getting where I need to be. Okay, so I have my three triangles and I have my balance points. Now, this is how we're going to measure from here. I'm going to find the midpoint of every side. Okay, now one easy way to find a midpoint of a side is to fold it, but because I'm using cardstock, I really don't want to fold it. So I'm just going to get out my geometer and I'm going to measure. So on this first side over here, it looks like from the edge to the edge is about 10.4. So I'm going to go to about 5.2 and I'm going to mark that edge right there, so this center point. I'm going to come over on this side. That looks like about 6.8. Half of that would be about 3.4. So I'm going to mark it. And on my last side, I have an about 9.8. So 9.8, 4.9, I believe, is about halfway. By the way, it's easier to work in metric on my centimeters because then I don't have to think about all my fractions, okay? So I can work in decimals instead. Okay, so you can see I have my 3 midpoints, okay? Right there, and right there. This one's halfway between here and here. This one's halfway between here and here. This one's halfway between here and here, okay? Now, we did something similar on our perpendicular bisectors. We were at the middle. But this time, I want to now draw a line between this vertex here and the midpoint across from it. Okay, so I'm lining up midpoint across to this vertex, and I'm going to draw a line. Okay, so I'm going to go from this vertex over here to the midpoint across, and I'm going to draw a line. And finally, from this vertex to the midpoint across, and I'm going to draw a line. Okay, and if you notice, my 3 lines met really close to my balance point. Okay, we found the balance point first, and we found the midpoint second. All right, let's try this again on the right triangle. So here's my right triangle, and I'm going to again get out my ruler, and I'm going to measure. This is alongside about 13.6 there. My brain doesn't want to do my division very well. 13.6, so about 6.8. And that's halfway between. All right, a short side here. I'm measuring about 6.2, so 3.1 right there. You can see I'm not exact because I keep bumping it. And my last side, about 12.2, so halfway would be 6.1. So I'll make that mark. It's funny how when the sides get long, our eye doesn't think that looks like halfway, but definitely when I measure, 12.2 and 6.1 is halfway, but because it gets so skinny down here, we get that perception that that's not exactly in the half. But it is. All right, and again, we're going to take vertex to the midpoint straight across from it and draw a line. So vertex to midpoint straight across and draw a line. We're going to go from our vertex to our midpoint straight across. Oops, yes, I wasn't exactly in that vertex. And from my vertex to the midpoint straight across. All right, and once again, even on this right triangle, it looks like we met about at my balance point. All right, one more with the obtuse. I'm going to measure the length of it, so I'm starting at 0 here on the left, all the way to about 15.5. So we know that one's going to be a funny decimal there, about 7.75 or 7.8-ish, about right there. Okay, that's halfway between there and there. All right, on this short side, almost, I'm going to call it 8, and then I'll go to 4 right there in the middle. Okay, so that's my midpoint right there. And on my last side here, about 12.2 again, so about 6.1 again. And I'll mark the midpoint there. Okay, and one more time I'm going to go vertex to the midpoint opposite it. I'm going to go vertex to the midpoint opposite it. And I'm going to go vertex here to the midpoint opposite it. And once again, on my obtuse triangle, it looks like my 3 lines met right at my balance point. Okay? So whether we had a balance points on an acute, a right, or an obtuse, they all seem to match right there where the lines that go from the midpoint to the vertex all join together inside a triangle. By the way, these lines that are go from a vertex to a midpoint are called medians. okay? And you can see those in all three triangles. They always meet somewhere in the middle of the triangle. And as we go through our notes, we're going to talk about some mathematical properties that come from these medians and where they meet.